Yumi looks up to the sky and sees a flying white object far off into the east. It looks like a blimp. Judging by its distance and apparent size, it must be quite large. Seems like fun. It must be so happy to lend its body to the whims of the wind and fly so blithely through the air. But Yumi has lots and lots she needs to do, tons of things she's got to think about. There's no time to daydream all day like a jellyfish drifting through the air. And thus, little by little, Yumi conformed to the precepts of adult self-awareness and felt a mysterious blend of feelings such as loneliness, suffering, and oddly enough, pride. Now Yumi takes a deep breath, straightens herself out for real this time, and focuses back on her mobile PC. Its screen displays a certain someone's notes, entrusted to Yumi by Yayoi-sensei. Yumi rereads the somewhat long text. The title, Multilayer World Hypothesis, an Objective Perspective. Perhaps you are familiar with the Multilayer World Hypothesis, one of the deviant opinions among the many schools of thought in modern psychology regarding the concept of the world. It's also called the MW hypothesis for short. It's not a difficult world outlook like Lacan's RSI seminar, but by no means is it a simple, definite concept either. It is abstract concept through and through, and perhaps more psychological than philosophical in nature. According to this school of thought, the real world that we live in, the one we're conscious of, is just one of many worlds. Another world exists above it, and yet another one above that one. The same goes in the opposite direction. Infinite lower strata worlds extend beneath this world as well. Some opine that the concept is close to the Buddhist... there's that... Trisahasra Mahasahasra Loka Dhatu, the whole universe of a billion worlds that the Buddha enlightened, the major world system. I see. In that case, this school of thought can also readily incorporate the Buddhist concept of samsara, or rebirth. Basically, humans whose lives have ended will have their souls transferred to the next world, up or down, and continue their next life there. Also, each world is closely linked to the next. Events that occur in one world appear to have an effect on another. For example, let's say that in World A, a meteorite impacts it by an astronomically small chance, upon which a lower or higher strata world closely linked to World A prime, also experiences a mostly similar meteorite strike with the same astronomically small chance. This may resemble determinism from philosophy, but it's slightly different. In determinism, the outcome of every event has already been determined by past events. If it rains this morning, then it'll be clear tomorrow, or something like that. But in the MW hypothesis, events are not determined by the accumulated past, but rather due to influences from other worlds. All in all, the outcome of events is indeterminable. However, circumstances repeat almost exactly, just like a reflection in a mirror. Perhaps that's one way to describe it. Each world resembles the next like twins. The individual affects the whole, and the whole affects the individual. They may seem disconnected, but they are connected by their roots. Perhaps I'm the only one who is reminded of Jung's collective unconscious here. That aside, ever since I've come to know this school of thought, my viewpoint in regards to the world has changed considerably. To put it simply, while society may adhere to common sense, to me, it's no more than one of many ways to perceive things. For example, we live in an age where heliocentrism is common sense, but there have been rare cases where some groups of children have been found to believe geocentrism. Can this be explained solely by a lack of education? Perhaps, in the reality as seen by those children, the Earth is the center and not the sun. However, because the reality clashes with the reality of humans surrounding them, it is deemed wrong, and the children's realities are perhaps warped to conform to the norm. This is quite an extreme example, but I cannot help but feel that there is more than one answer to everything. There are countless variations of human values, so why would it be strange for there to be countless realities? That is my opinion. Everything is completely true, 1, and simultaneously false, 0. It is impossible for only one thing to be fake and only one thing to be true. Each of the infinite answers is a fragment of the truth and not fiction. That is what I think. Another me gazes down from the world above us. Another me exists down in the world below us. No, to be more accurate, it's improper to use terms such as above and below. This is not something that can be expressed with three-dimensional coordinates. These worlds exist in a superposed state at the same time, like a quantum bit. The infinite me's, they might be myself, that becomes aware whenever I gaze at myself. Like the mirror image reflected by opposing mirrors. Humans can think about themselves. They are the rare organism that can stare at themselves. This is both the miracle that brought human development this far, as well as the forbidden fruit which has wrought tragedy. For this trait has allowed us to reach the point where we can consider things with mind detached from body, emotion detached from reason, and thus possibly bringing about the start of mutual separation. In that case, it can be thought that if we were to chase time as far as it would go, as advanced as civilization would reach, as complex as society would develop, the separation would just grow and grow and grow. The more information is accumulated, the wider our field of vision spreads, the further separated two people become. Details become ambiguous, and general concepts slowly fade away. And finally, through the eyes of the computer network, we begin to see even the world itself through an objective point of view. That is not all. In order to deal with the complex, diversifying, fragmenting value systems, we must fragment even ourselves. Perhaps we ICs are the generation that has advanced to the point where nothing more can be done about alienation and isolation. We have advanced to the point where all known methods of observation are growing incapable of observing ourselves, or observing reality. So we've grown a need to perceive a new world. What was perhaps inevitably born from that need was an imaginary world like Babylon, a multi-layer world. A diversified reality born out of alienation, out of isolation, a method of observation to tether our diversified selves. Innumerable selves, each one the real self. Innumerable worlds, each one the real world. A receiving system to affirm that notion. Innumerable selves gazing at oneself. I think about myself, and then the me that was thought about by myself thinks about another myself, forming an eternal chain of thought. The concept that gave rise to that vision may very well be that of multi-layer worlds. This landscape we see is by no means a computer-generated virtual image, but a dream, perhaps an illusion. It is one answer we derived ourselves to the question of how the real world should be. Each is real. Each is reality. Each is me, myself. So, the imaginary world Babylon is yet another reality. One's shadow in Babylon is another side of one's true self. Naturally, real space is certainly reality as well. I do not deny the real. I do not deny the body of flesh and blood. At the same time, I do not deny the virtual. I do not deny the shadow of bits and bytes. Because denying the shadow one casts is to deny oneself. I, alongside Miss Ano and Miss Enlil, created Babylon in order to tether our alienated, isolated selves. But perhaps we were a little too early, and our system too immature, and thus perhaps that is why we were led, used, and thrown away by Exarch. Miss Enlil, who did not notice their true intent, seems to be taking out her frustration on reality. Or perhaps her greatest tragedy was knowing what was going on intuitively, but not being able to fully understand it. And that I too had come to despair at the cruelty of reality and temporarily left Babylon. But as I came into contact with the MW hypothesis, hope was born anew. That perhaps we could start over. The catalyst was when I received a private message from Miss Enlil, with whom I had not been in contact for a while. I had already thought her to be beyond understanding. The perpetrator who corrupted paradise into a lion's den of decadence and pleasure. Can she be healed? Can her fanatical thoughts be cured? Is it possible to do that without denying Miss Enlil's ideology? To do that to her, one who walked down the path of carnage would without a doubt be seen as an insult of the highest order. She may very well kill me, but that is fine. For if nobody casts the first stone, Miss Enlil may one day destroy the world in its entirety. And besides, in the event it goes smoothly, next is Miss Anu. If we could go back once more to those fulfilling days of world management, to be on the safe side, I've decided to leave my Shadow Null in Babylon. On the off chance that I cannot bring a halt to Miss Enlil's rampage, I am sure my shadow will search for the most proper method and defend the world, even if it means to kill without hesitation. It's very unsettling, but we should request Exarch's cooperation as well. Mr. Nabu is currently with Exarch, after all. I will leak to them the danger of Edoc's true form, code, and get them to use force when necessary. One more thing. If I tell the Shadows and Exarch about the quantum computers, it is a little concerning, but Marduk's surviving consciousness has the potential to pose a threat to the world. We need to keep our guard up. My wish is for the preservation of the world. For watching over the world is my true joy. And finally, I will show my respect for Father's book that gave me the chance to restore hope. My gratitude for Father himself. If Father had not written that book, I would likely be writhing in the darkness of the abyss even now. April 26, 2031. I look up the author of the Multilayer World Hypothesis. Before long, the screen displays psychology professor Watatsumi Kaiji. Ah. So, that is her father. Apparently, he was a leading psychologist in IC research. Subsequently, he announced his novel, Personal Opinion, that he concluded through the course of research. Due to the eccentricity of his theory, he was shunned from the scientific society, and later died a natural death in despair, is what came up. Yumi finishes reading and gazes at the sky, reflecting on her thoughts for the umpteenth time. Why exactly did she write this when she was alive? What was her intent? The wind feels like it's getting colder. Yumi closes her mobile PC screen, still unable to gather her thoughts. Yumi plans to drop by the infirmary and repay Sensei. But at that moment, that very same blimp comes into view once more. It's quite unsettling for some reason. Yeah, I had something up with that. Yumi zooms in with her cyber eye. The giant white blimp flying in the east becomes clearly visible in no time flat. It's slowly traveling from north to south. On the side of the blimp is a painting of a certain flower. A flower Yumi has associated with several words filled with hope. Where are you? Amongst the noisy hustle and bustle. Although I'm being tossed around by the jostle, I manage to stand my ground somehow, like a leaf that's fluttered down into a muddy stream. It's strange, but why does everyone want to gather in one place like this iron sand that's drawn to a magnet? Even though it's inefficient and uncomfortable, no matter how you think about it. The most troubling part is passing other people. Someone right ahead of you is coming from the exact same direction. If you keep going straight, you'll hit them, so you dodge to the side, but the other person moves to the same side as well. Oh, I'm sorry, you'll mutter that and move to the opposite side. When you do, the other person moves in the same direction. And you move to the opposite side yet again. The other person also moves in that direction. Move to the opposite side. So does the other person. Move to the opposite side. So does the other person. Cut it out already. The worst times are when you're made to repeat this 10 times like you're doing some sort of side jump exercise. It's stupid if I do say so myself. We should just yield right away and go directly straight. But when you think that and walk, the other person thinks the same thing, and then wham! Mutual understanding sure is difficult. Well, that's that. It's just a minor grievance. I don't intend to comment on other people's value systems. After all, I myself am an eccentric of sorts. Lately, I've been trying to go out into the city on my own discretion. It's not like I'm going because I have a specific destination. It's always just random strolling, as well as a chance to observe the people around me. Whenever I get tired of walking, I enter a coffee shop or cafe that catches my eye and rest. These idle strolls have almost become a daily routine of sorts. Oni-chan accompanied me at first, but nowadays I've reached the point where I can do it on my own with no trouble. Not even I know the reason why I started doing this. Did I intend it as rehab for returning to the real world? Was it in order to satisfy my curiosity? Or did I subconsciously have a more refined goal for doing so? Or maybe I'm searching for her. I take out the rosary that was hidden in my clothes and gently touch it. The world is darkening, but the city starts shining with vivid neon in inverse proportion to that, and the traffic of cars and people grows more intense, causing one to even feel a somewhat excited impression. After a little while, I feel thirsty and hungry. I feel like resting somewhere. Now then, what to do? I don't see any restaurants nearby that I want to drop by. Well, that place looks like it'll do. With not much of a choice, I decide to go to a nearby coffee shop. The restaurant is really packed. I get in the long line, and after waiting for a long time, I finally buy a potato salad, sandwich, and coffee. Of course, I wish to eat and drink in the shop, but it's hard to secure a seat right now, so I've fallen into an awkward situation. I go from one end of the shop to the other, wander aimlessly in circles around the place, and when I finally get a seat, it's in the smoking section next to a noisy group of tourists. I detach my consciousness from my surroundings as much as possible and try to focus on eating and drinking. First, I grab the sandwich. In the past, I would stuff my cheeks with Mom's homemade sandwiches while enthusiastically engrossing myself in Babylon. This brings me back a bit. But after one bite, I find myself disappointed. I went through all that trouble to find a seat, and yet the potato salad is dry and completely flavorless. The lettuce interposed between it is all flabby. And on top of that, the bread is rock hard. I pull myself together and take the coffee. After filling it with milk and sugar, and after estimating when it's cooled down to body temperature, I take a sip. Perhaps it was considerably boiled, as it smells unbelievably sour and it tastes terrible, as if it were boiled ink. As I get depressed, the strange high-frequency waves of shrill voices propagate from the table next to me, along with the awful stench of cigarette smoke. With my mood now completely ruined, I quickly leave the shop. Even so, I make sure to finish my sandwich and coffee completely. When I get outside, I take a deep breath. The air is bad as always, but it allows me to pull myself together a bit. While walking against the flow of the crowd of people, I think to myself, what's projected in the world that everyone's seeing? Before I know it, I've arrived at the train station. There's lots of people crowded here as well, a crowd composed of a large variety of people of different ages, genders, blood types, jobs, and likely even places of origin.
みんなが見ている世界には何が映っているのだろうか。
Suddenly, an elderly woman trying to pass by in front of me stops, looks at my listless form, and tilts her head suspiciously. But then she briskly walks away. This might not be that uncommon of a scene. What's projected?
もし私と同じものを見ているのだとしたら、そう考えるのは希望であり、傲慢でもあるのかもしれない。
Are you and I really in the same place? Are you and I really seeing the same things in the same way? But
同じである必要なんて どこにあるのだろう。
Yeah.
私はここにいて、あなたはそこにいる。立ち位置は異なる。まずそれを知ることから始めよう。全く違う人間同士が同じ時間を過ごしている意味を考えよう。その幸せの意味をかみしめよう。
The flow of people divides into two streams at where I am and merges back into one stream after a little bit.
分かり合えないことを分かり合えたとき、本当の理解が生まれる。
Even though some people glance at me from time to time, no one stops.
真実は一つではない。それぞれが見ているのは多層世界の断片に過ぎない。ただそれはおおむね同じと感じることによって皆幸せになれる。それは自分とは違っている相手を認めること、許すこと。
Just before I awoke from enigma, I reached an epiphany about a certain truth. First, come to mutually understand things that you don't mutually understand. True empathy is born from there. Is my voice reaching someone? Is someone looking at me? Suddenly, I get a craving for that fried jellyfish they serve at jellyfish stands. Suigetsu, water and moon. Japanese word made up of the kanji for water and moon. A pure, innocent personality. Another name for jellyfish, called so because they resemble the surface of the moon swaying on the water's surface. A food stand that sells jellyfish. They also sell takoyaki, grilled octopus, and ikeyaki, grilled squid. A park located near Kocho. Its official name is Suigetsu Park. There is a large pond there that looks beautiful when the moon is reflected off of it. I know. I'll go buy some on my way back to give Oni-chan as souvenir. While thinking that, a white object flying in the sky floats in the corner of my field of vision. It's a blimp. A giant white blimp in the east, floating like a jellyfish. On the side of the blimp is a painting of a certain flower. I feel the texture of my rosary. I gaze at the blimp for a while, and then I ask myself a question this time.
みんなが見ている世界には何が映っているのだろうか。
Where are you?